There's something profoundly unsettling about looking into a mirror and not recognizing the face staring back. In Bloodborne, you wake on a surgical table in a crumbling Victorian clinic, the metallic tang of blood heavy in the air, and you're forced to confront a question that goes deeper than names or memories. Who are you? Not in the superficial sense of character customization or class selection, but fundamentally, existentially. What manner of being have you become in this nightmare city of Yharnam? The answer is far more complex and disturbing than you might imagine. You are a stranger from foreign lands who came seeking a cure. You are a vessel bound by contract to an otherworldly dream. You are balanced precariously on a razor's edge between bestial savagery and cosmic transcendence. You are simultaneously hunter and hunted, predator and prey, mortal and something approaching divinity. You are whatever the blood has made you, whatever the dream has shaped you into, whatever choice you make when standing at the precipice between endings. FromSoftware's masterpiece doesn't simply ask you to play a character. It asks you to become one, to inhabit the psychological and physical transformation that occurs when someone steps across the threshold into Yharnam's ancient streets. Your identity in Bloodborne is not fixed or predetermined. It's a fluid, evolving thing shaped by blood ministration and eldritch knowledge, by the weapons you wield and the truths you uncover. Every insight point gained shifts your perception of reality. Every beast slain brings you closer to understanding or damnation. This is the story of who you are in Bloodborne. Not just the mechanical systems of stats and origins, but the philosophical implications of your journey. The transformation from outsider to hunter. The gradual revelation that the hunt itself may be the truest definition of your existence. The terrible knowledge that in seeking Paleblood to transcend the hunt, you may have become precisely what you sought to escape, the stranger who came to Yharnam. Before you were a hunter, before the dream took hold, before the blood changed everything, you were simply a traveler, an outsider, someone who heard whispers of Yharnam's miraculous blood ministration and made the journey to this isolated city clinging to mountain sides, its Gothic spires piercing the perpetual twilight. You came seeking something, though the exact nature of your affliction remains deliberately vague, lost in the haze of blood transfusion and nightmare visions. The game provides fragments, hints scattered like breadcrumbs through item descriptions and environmental storytelling. You were suffering from some manner of illness, some malady that conventional medicine couldn't cure. Perhaps it was physical, a wasting disease eating away at your vitality. Perhaps it was spiritual, that sickness of the soul that the doll references when she speaks of your sickly spirit. The Victorian era that Bloodborne evokes was rife with such afflictions, mysterious maladies that modern medicine would later understand, but which seemed inexplicable and terrifying to those who suffered them. Some theories suggest you were suffering from anemia, that your pale blood drew you to Yharnam like a moth to flame. The very term pale blood that drives your quest could refer to this condition, to blood deprived of its vital red essence, transparent and sickly. Hypochromic anemia in particular causes blood to lose its color, and this medical reality might have been transformed into something mystical through Yharnam's particular brand of blood worship. Others propose that your affliction was the early stages of the beast scourge itself, that you carried the curse long before arriving, and came to Yharnam not for a cure, but for something deeper, some way to transcend the bestial fate that awaited you. What we know for certain is this: you arrived in Yharnam as countless others have before you, not as a hunter, but as a patient, as someone desperate enough to sign whatever contract was placed before you, to accept blood ministration from a strange old man in a wheelchair, to close your eyes and hope that when you opened them again, everything would be different. And it was different. Catastrophically, irrevocably different. The Yharnam you entered is a city built on blood. Its economy, Its religion, its very architecture, seems designed to facilitate the collection and distribution of old blood. The healing church rose to power on the promise that this blood could cure any ailment, elevate humanity to new heights, perhaps even grant something approaching immortality. For a time, this seemed true. People came from across the world to receive blood ministration in Yarnam's clinics and cathedrals. They walked in sick and emerged healed, stronger, transformed. But there's always a price for transformation. The old blood that flows through Yarnam's veins comes from the Great Ones, those cosmic entities that exist beyond human comprehension. It carries with it not just healing properties but something else, something that changes those who receive it in ways both subtle and catastrophic. Some become stronger, yes, but strength comes paired with hunger. Knowledge arrives alongside madness. Healing brings transformation, and not all transformations are desired. You couldn't have known this when you signed that contract. How could you? The blood minister, with his archaic wheelchair and his knowing smile, gave no warnings beyond the cryptic assurance that whatever happened might seem like a bad dream. He knew, though. He understood what the contract meant, what it would bind you to. The exact nature of his role remains mysterious, but his words suggest familiarity with Paleblood and the strange fate that awaits those who seek it. Whether he's done this countless times before, administering blood to desperate souls and watching them slip away into the hunter's dream, is uncertain. But his composed demeanor implies this is far from his first such encounter. The transfusion itself is a liminal moment, a threshold between your old life and whatever comes after. You see it in that opening cutscene, the blood dripping, the needle-piercing flesh, and then the vision, a scourge beast made of blood itself rising from a puddle, reaching toward you with clawed hands. Is it offering communion or threatening attack? The imagery is deliberately ambiguous. On first viewing, it seems hostile, a monster about to tear you apart. But on subsequent playthroughs, armed with knowledge of what's to come, you might see it differently. An invitation, a transformation, the beast reaching out to you and then bursting into flames, which could represent the Yarnam blood fighting against whatever infection or curse you carried within yourself, or perhaps the purging of the beast's influence through the transfusion. And then the messengers come, those strange pale creatures, like malformed children or ancient homunculi, crawling over you with gentle insistence. They shouldn't be comforting, these alien things, but somehow they are. They mark you, they claim you, they brand the hunter's mark into your consciousness, linking you irrevocably to the dream that will become both sanctuary and prison. When you wake in Iosefka's clinic, you are no longer simply yourself. The blood has changed you on a fundamental level. You are stronger, faster, more resilient than any normal human should be. You can survive falls that would shatter bones, recover from wounds that should be fatal, fight with a skill and savagery that seems impossible for someone who, mere moments ago, was too sick to leave their bed. The transformation has already begun, though you don't yet understand its full implications. Outside the clinic, Yarnam awaits, not the prosperous medical city you expected, but a place transformed by nightmare. The streets run with blood. Citizens have become rabid mobs, clutching farming implements and torches, hunting each other with bestial fury. The architecture itself seems wrong, as if the city has been twisted by some cosmic force, passages leading to impossible places, geometry that defies logic. This is Yarnam on the night of the hunt, and you have arrived at precisely the worst possible moment. Or perhaps the best moment. Perhaps this is exactly when the moon presence needed a new hunter, when the contract could be enforced, when someone desperate enough and transformed enough by Yarnam blood could be conscripted into eternal service. Whether your arrival was coincidence or cosmic choreography, pieces moving on a board you can't yet see remains one of Bloodborne's many mysteries. You don't know this yet, of course. In those first stumbling moments, Fighting with fists against a scourge beast that outmatches you in every way, you're simply trying to survive, trying to make sense of what's happening, trying to understand why you came to Yharnam in the first place. And that's when you die for the first time, torn apart by claws and teeth, and awaken in the hunter's dream. Blood and contracts. The hunter's dream should not exist. It defies every law of physics, every rational explanation. One moment you're dying on the cold stones of Iosefka's clinic, a scourge beast's jaws closing around your throat. The next, you're standing in a garden of white flowers, an impossible moon hanging low in the sky, a workshop that mirrors the one in Yharnam's waking world, but seems somehow more real, more substantial. This is where you truly become a hunter, not through choice, but through contract. That document you signed before the blood ministration, scrawled with signatures you couldn't read and sealed with who knows what eldritch symbols, has bound you to this place. The hunter's dream is a realm unto itself, a pocket dimension connected to the moon presence and maintained by Gehrman, the first hunter. It exists outside normal time and space, a sanctuary and a trap, a gift and a curse. Here you discover the full extent of what the blood transfusion has done to you. The messengers, those strange pale creatures from your vision, dwell here in abundance. They offer you weapons, trick weapons of ingenious and deadly design. The saw cleaver or the hunter axe, the threaded cane for those who prefer finesse over brutality. Each is a masterwork of engineering, transforming from one form to another with a simple motion, adapting to whatever the hunt demands. The doll greets you, or would greet you, if you possessed even a single point of insight. Without that cosmic knowledge, she appears as merely an inanimate object, a beautiful porcelain figure positioned near Gehrman's workshop. But gain just one point of insight, witness just one truth that transcends normal human understanding, and she awakens. She speaks. She offers to channel your blood echoes, the currency of souls you harvest from the slain, into raw power. She becomes your only true ally in this nightmare, the only being who seems to genuinely care about your well-being. Gehrman himself sits in a wheelchair near the workshop, an old man who speaks with the weariness of someone who has lived far too long. He instructs you to hunt beasts, to kill the nightmares plaguing Yharnam's streets. For your own good, he says, though what good could possibly come from endless slaughter remains unclear. He speaks of hunters and hunts, of the workshop's glory days, of a time when things were different. But he never explains the fundamental truth, that you are trapped here, bound by contract to hunt until the task is complete or until someone sets you free. The contract itself remains mysterious. What exactly did you sign? What were the terms? The blood minister spoke of it as if it were routine, something all patients underwent before receiving blood ministration. But there's nothing routine about binding someone's soul to an otherworldly dream realm, conscripting them into eternal service as a beast hunter. This was never about curing your illness. This was about recruitment. The moon presence appears to need hunters, though its ultimate purpose remains unclear. The Great Ones, those cosmic entities that hover at the edges of reality, each have their own inscrutable goals. According to various item descriptions, Great Ones seek children, with their offspring always stillborn, leaving them desperate for surrogate young. Others manipulate events from behind veils of secrecy, moving pieces on boards humans can barely perceive. Based on what we can observe, the moon presence seems to have created the hunter's dream for a specific purpose, to maintain an eternal cycle of hunters who could never truly die, who would hunt beasts and perhaps other great ones, who would serve its incomprehensible agenda. When you signed that contract, you became one of these hunters. The blood transfusion transformed your body, making you stronger and more resilient than normal humans. But the contract transformed something deeper. It wrote the hunter's mark into your consciousness, that symbol you can invoke to return to the dream, abandoning all your gathered blood echoes, but escaping certain death. It made you effectively immortal as long as the dream persists. Die in Yharnam's streets, and you wake in the dream. Die in the dream itself, and you wake at the last lamp you kindled, ready to try again. This immortality comes at a terrible cost. You cannot leave. You cannot wake. The normal rhythms of life no longer apply to you. You exist in a state of perpetual hunt, pursuing beasts through streets that never truly change, fighting enemies that respawn endlessly, trapped in a cycle that will continue until you either complete your mysterious task or someone severs your connection to the dream. Other hunters have been here before you, hundreds of them, perhaps thousands. Every gravestone in the hunter's dream represents another soul who was bound by contract, who hunted through Yharnam's nightmare, who either completed their task or failed and was replaced. Some, like Eileen the Crow and retired hunter Jura, somehow escaped. They no longer dream, as they put it, their connection to the hunter's dream severed by some unknown means. They retain their hunting prowess, their enhanced abilities, but they're free from that eternal cycle of death and rebirth. You meet other hunters during your journey. Some are fellow servants of the dream, like Gehrman himself or the mysterious doll. Others are independent operators with their own agendas. Alfred hunts Vilebloods with religious fervor. The Bloody Crow of Canehurst serves the queen who never truly died. Each hunter was transformed by blood. Each carries their own weapons and their own burdens. But you're unique. You're the latest, the one who arrived at this particular moment in Yharnam's long decline, the one who might finally complete whatever task the moon presence has in mind. The blood that flows through your veins now is not your own. It's Yharnam blood, old blood, blood that connects you to the city's dark history and darker present. This blood grants incredible power. You can survive injuries that should kill you. Your vitality replenishes when you strike back against enemies who've just wounded you. The rally system allowing you to reclaim lost health through aggressive action. You can channel blood echoes into raw strength, growing more powerful with each hunt. But the blood also carries dangers. It makes you susceptible to beasthood, that transformation that has claimed so many Yharnamites. It opens your mind to insight, cosmic knowledge that reveals truths about reality that perhaps should remain hidden. It binds you to the dream and through the dream to forces beyond comprehension. The more you hunt, the more blood you shed and absorb, the further you drift from whatever you were when you first arrived in Yharnam. You can feel it sometimes, can't you? The way the blood sings in your veins during combat. The hunger that drives you to seek out more beasts, more challenges, more blood echoes to harvest. The satisfaction of a successful visceral attack. Your hand plunging into an enemy's torso to tear out their essence. These aren't normal human responses. These are the instincts of something else, something the blood is shaping you into. The contract binds you, but the blood defines you. It's rewriting your very nature, one hunt at a time, one death and resurrection at a time. And the terrifying truth is that you can't resist it. The game's mechanics ensure you must hunt, must kill, must grow stronger. There's no option to lay down your weapons and walk away. The contract demands it. The dream enforces it. Your transformation is inevitable. The 9 possible pasts. Who were you before Yharnam? The game offers 9 origin stories, 9 possible pasts that shaped the person who would eventually sign that fateful contract. Each origin comes with its own statistical distribution, its own implied backstory, its own starting point on the journey to whatever you'll become. Some are mundane, others tragic, and one is particularly cruel in its assessment of your worth. Milquetoast, the ordinary soul. Someone who had a happy upbringing, all attributes average, nothing exceptional in any direction. This is the middle-class existence, comfortable enough to avoid desperation, but not wealthy enough to avoid needing Yarnum's blood ministration. Perhaps you were a clerk or a tradesperson, someone living a respectable but unremarkable life until illness struck. There's something both comforting and tragic about this origin. You were normal, happy even, before everything went wrong. The fall from contentment to nightmare is that much more severe. Lone survivor, the last one left. You survived when your hamlet fell, when disease or disaster or something worse claimed everyone you knew. High vitality, high life essence, because survival has always been your defining trait. You learned to endure when others perished. This origin suggests a past marked by trauma, by loss that shaped you into someone resilient enough to withstand Yarnum's horrors, because you've already witnessed horrors of your own. Perhaps that's why you came here, not just seeking a cure, but seeking meaning, some way to make survival matter. Troubled childhood, scars that never healed. You suffered misfortune in youth, emerged highly resilient as a result, but those early hardships left their mark. High endurance and skill, low vitality and strength, as if you learned to survive through evasion and cleverness rather than raw power. What happened in those formative years? Abuse, poverty, abandonment. The game never specifies, leaving the details to your imagination. But whatever it was, it prepared you for Yarnum in ways you couldn't have anticipated. Survival through adversity becomes your defining characteristic. Violent past, brutality as foundation. You have high strength, the physique of someone accustomed to physical confrontation. Perhaps you were a soldier, a mercenary, someone for whom violence was profession rather than aberration. Or perhaps your past is darker still, a criminal, a murderer, someone fleeing consequences. This origin suggests coming to Yarnum not just seeking healing, but seeking escape, a new identity in a city where the old rules no longer apply. The irony, of course, is that Yarnum demands even more violence than your past ever did. Professional, dedicated, and disciplined. High skill and endurance, someone who approached their craft with precision and dedication. You might have been a surgeon, an artisan, someone whose livelihood depended on careful control and practiced expertise. This origin works particularly well with skill weapons, the threaded cane or blade of mercy, tools that reward finesse over brute force. Your professional background prepared you for the precise brutality of the hunt, though the targets are rather different than whatever you worked on before. Military veteran, shaped by war. You've seen combat, understand tactics and strategy, know how to survive on battlefields. High strength, skill, vitality, and endurance, the well-rounded stats of someone trained for warfare. Perhaps you fought in some distant conflict, emerged victorious but scarred, sought Yarnum's blood ministration to heal wounds physical or psychological. The hunt becomes another war, another campaign, except this enemy respawns endlessly, and victory is always temporary. Noble scion, born to privilege, a scion to a respectable line, faith in your pedigree, but also high blood tinge and skill with low vitality. This origin suggests someone trained in elegant weapons and firearms, perhaps fencing or dueling, the martial pursuits of the wealthy. You came to Yarnum expecting the finest treatment, the best blood ministration money could buy, only to discover that in this nightmare city, noble birth means nothing. The beasts don't care about your lineage. The dream doesn't grant exceptions for the privileged. Cruel fate, marked by destiny. You faced terrible hardships, but emerged confident in your purpose. Very high arcane, as if suffering opened your mind to cosmic truths. This origin works best for those who embrace Bloodborne's stranger weapons and hunter tools, the arcane implements that channel otherworldly powers. Perhaps you were a scholar or mystic, someone whose affliction came from delving too deep into forbidden knowledge. Coming to Yarnum wasn't escape, but continuation, following the path toward greater understanding regardless of cost. Waste of skin, the harshest judgment. You are nothing, talentless. You shouldn't have been born. the lowest starting level, the bleakest assessment. Yet, paradoxically, this origin offers the most potential. Starting with less means more freedom to shape yourself as you level up, more flexibility in building whatever character you envision. The Waste of Skin is FromSoftware's perverse gift to challenge-seeking players. Start with nothing, become everything through sheer determination. These 9 origins are more than mechanical differences. They're narrative possibilities, 9 different characters who might have signed that contract. The game never confirms which one is correct or canonical. In a sense, you're all of them simultaneously. Every possible past collapsed into quantum superposition until your choices and play style make one interpretation more real than others. A milquetoast hunter who prefers the saw cleaver and behaves with straightforward brutality. A noble scion wielding elegant rapiers and firearms. A waste of skin who transcends their unpromising beginnings through sheer blood-stained determination. What matters is that each origin represents someone who had a life before Yharnam, before the blood, before the contract. Someone with history and hopes and reasons for coming to this cursed city. The tragedy is that none of those reasons mattered. Whether you were noble or common, violent or professional, talented or worthless, the contract treated everyone the same. It bound you to the dream. It transformed you into a hunter. It erased whoever you were and replaced it with what you needed to become. Your origin might determine your starting stats, but it doesn't determine your destiny. That's shaped by choices yet to come, by whether you embrace the beast or seek cosmic transcendence, by which ending you choose when all truths are finally revealed. The past is prologue, but the hunt is eternal. The hunt for Paleblood. Seek Paleblood to transcend the hunt. Those 7 words drive everything. They're written on a note in Iosefka's clinic, discovered just after you wake from the blood transfusion. The note's origin is mysterious. Some interpret it as a message you wrote to yourself before the procedure, though the game never confirms this. You came to Yharnam seeking Paleblood. Everything that follows, the contract, the transfusion, the transformation into a hunter, stems from this mysterious goal. But what is Paleblood? After years of community analysis, countless theories, and heated debates, the answer remains deliberately ambiguous. Director Hidetaka Miyazaki himself offered only cryptic guidance when asked about Paleblood's meaning. He suggested 2 primary interpretations. First, that Paleblood refers to the color of the sky after defeating Ram the vacuous spider, when the Mensis ritual is revealed and the sky turns a pale blue, like a body drained of blood. Under this interpretation, seeking Paleblood means uncovering the truth, exposing the cosmic horror that lurks behind Yharnam's nightmare, putting an end to the ritual that perpetuates the scourge. The second interpretation is even stranger. Paleblood might be another name for the moon presence itself, that spindly cosmic entity behind the hunter's dream. A note in the Nightmare Lecture Hall explicitly states, "The nameless moon presence beckoned by Lawrence and his associates." Paleblood. Some players call this Great One Flora, though this name appears nowhere in the game itself. If Paleblood does refer to the moon presence, then seeking it means confronting the being that bound you to the dream in the first place, the Great One pulling strings behind reality's curtain. But the community has proposed many other theories, each supported by different evidence from the game's dense web of interconnected lore. Some believe Paleblood refers to the blood of the Great Ones themselves, that cosmic ichor which differs fundamentally from human blood. The choir experimented with this substance, seeking to elevate humanity through communion with higher beings. Perhaps you came to Yharnam seeking this transformative blood, hoping it would cure your affliction by fundamentally changing what you are. Others point to medical conditions that might explain the term. Hypochromic anemia, sometimes called pale blood disease, causes red blood cells to lose their color due to lack of hemoglobin. In Victorian times, this condition made sufferers appear deathly pale, weak, and sickly. It was sometimes called the Virgin's disease, and victims desperately sought cures that didn't exist. If you suffered from this condition, coming to Yharnam for blood ministration makes perfect sense. The old blood promised to cure any ailment, to restore vitality and color to those wasting away. There's even a theory that Paleblood refers to the plain doll's blood specifically. She's the only being in the game with truly pale, almost white blood. As a creation of Gehrman's longing, brought to life through the moon presence's power, she represents something unique, a being that bridges the gap between human artifice and cosmic reality. Seeking her blood, or what she represents, could mean seeking a way to exist between states, neither fully human nor fully transcendent. The most comprehensive interpretation comes from Redgrave's famous essay, The Pale Blood Hunt, which proposes that pale blood represents white blood cells. White blood cells are the immune system's defenders, growing to consume infections and isolate them. They're literally pale blood, and their function could mirror what you become in the dream. A hunter who seeks out the scourge, consumes it through combat, isolates and destroys the infection-threatening Yharnam. Under this reading, you could be pale blood itself, transformed into the very cure you sought. The ambiguity is intentional, part of Bloodborne's commitment to cosmic horror. H.P. Lovecraft, whose work heavily influenced the game, understood that the unknown is more terrifying than the known. Questions without definitive answers create a space for dread to grow. By never explicitly confirming what pale blood is, the game ensures that players remain in a state of productive uncertainty, generating theories and interpretations that enrich the experience rather than reducing it to simple exposition. What we can say with certainty is that seeking pale blood drives your journey. It's why you came to Yharnam. It's mentioned in that first conversation with the blood minister. Oh yes, pale blood. Well, you've come to the right place. He knows what you're seeking, even if you no longer remember clearly. The contract you signed, the blood ministration you received, the hunt you're now bound to, all of it connects to this mysterious substance or concept or being called pale blood. As you progress through the game, you gradually accumulate more information, though it only deepens the mystery. Gilbert, a fellow outsider sick in his home, has never heard of pale blood when you ask him about it. This suggests the term isn't commonly known among Yharnam's citizens, that it's specialized knowledge, something only certain individuals would recognize. Whether the Healing Church knows about pale blood, with their extensive research into blood and the cosmos, remains unclear. Master Willem at Bergenwerth may have encountered the concept in his studies, but for ordinary citizens, pale blood remains obscure. After defeating Rom and witnessing the revelation of the pale sky, you find messages scattered through Yahargul. Behold, a pale blood sky, as if the writer understands that this moment, this revelation of cosmic truth, represents the pale blood you've been seeking. The veil is lifted, the illusion falls away. You can now see the amygdalas that have been clinging to buildings throughout your journey, invisible before, but always present. The sky's pale coloration reveals the nightmare's true nature. But seeing the truth isn't the same as transcending the hunt. You're still bound to the dream, still compelled to hunt through these blood-soaked streets. The revelation doesn't free you. If anything, it deepens your entanglement, opening your eyes to horrors you couldn't perceive before. This is the cruel irony of insight, of seeking cosmic knowledge. Understanding doesn't grant power over what you understand. Sometimes it only makes you more aware of your own helplessness. The note says to seek pale blood to transcend the hunt. Transcend, to rise above, to surpass, to move beyond. But beyond to where? The three endings offer different forms of transcendence, different ways of escaping or perpetuating the hunt. Perhaps pale blood isn't a single thing, but a multiplicity. and which one you're truly seeking only becomes clear when you make your final choice. You came to Yharnam looking for something called Paleblood. You became a hunter in its pursuit. You uncovered cosmic horrors and ancient conspiracies. You transformed yourself through blood and insight. And in the end, you might discover that Paleblood was inside you all along, in the pale blood of anemia that drove you here, in the white blood cells fighting against infection, in the pale sky revealing truth, in the moon presence whose blood runs through the dream itself. The question isn't what pale blood is. The question is which interpretation lets you transcend, which understanding grants freedom from the eternal hunt. Between beast and God, there's a spectrum in Bloodborne, a continuum between two extremes that defines the space where your character exists. At one end lies the beast, savage, instinctual, consumed by hunger and rage. At the other end stands the Great One, cosmic, incomprehensible, existing beyond normal human limitations. You walk the razor's edge between these poles, and every choice pushes you toward one extreme or the other. The beast transformation is always lurking, always threatening. You see it in the citizens of Yharnam who've succumbed to the scourge, their humanity stripped away until only bestial hunger remains. You see it in Father Gascoigne, a fellow hunter who fights alongside his daughter's music box for comfort, before inevitably transforming into the very thing he hunted. You see it in the ashen werewolves of old Yharnam, in the grotesque beast patients of the healing church's experiments, in countless forms that demonstrate what happens when the old blood overwhelms human flesh. The beasthood stat measures your susceptibility to this transformation. It's inverse to insight. The less cosmic knowledge you possess, the higher your potential for bestial power. This makes thematic sense. Beasts don't contemplate the cosmos. They don't seek understanding or transcendence. They exist in pure physical immediacy, all strength and hunger and instinct. When you consume a beast blood pellet, you temporarily embrace this state, your attacks growing more powerful as you land successive hits, a red mist surrounding you as the beast within emerges. There's terrible pleasure in this transformation. The game's combat system rewards aggression, encourages you to press forward and strike back after taking damage. The rally mechanic lets you reclaim lost health through violence, teaching you to respond to injury not with caution but with increased ferocity. Beasthood takes this to its logical extreme. Become the monster. Let savage instinct guide your blade. Sacrifice defense for overwhelming offense. Certain equipment enhances this path. The beast claws allow you to fight like a werewolf, your attacks becoming more feral as beasthood builds. Ashen Hunter attire and Brador's set increase your beasthood stat. Beast runes carved into your mind grant you bestial strength. The most extreme expression is Beast's Embrace, a rune that fundamentally alters your form, transforming your dodge into a four-legged dash and changing your attacks into something truly inhuman. But Insight represents the opposite trajectory, the path toward cosmic understanding, toward seeing reality as the Great Ones see it. Every point of insight gained opens your eyes a little wider, reveals truths that were always present, but hidden from normal perception. At one insight, the plain doll awakens, becoming more than mere porcelain. At 15 insight, you hear Gehrman's sleep-talking, his desperate pleas for Lawrence and Willem to free him from the dream. At 40 insight, you can see the lesser amygdalas even before the blood moon reveals them to everyone. Insight is accumulated through discovery and confrontation. Encountering a boss for the first time grants insight. Defeating that boss grants more. Consuming Madman's knowledge or Great One's wisdom increases it. Simply entering certain areas, the Hunter's Nightmare, the Research Hall, the Fishing Hamlet, floods your consciousness with revelations. Each point of insight represents forbidden knowledge gained, cosmic truth comprehended. Another step toward perceiving reality as something far stranger and more terrible than human minds were meant to grasp. The cost of this knowledge is significant. High insight reduces your frenzy resistance, making you more vulnerable to attacks that target sanity rather than flesh. Winter lanterns, those grotesque creatures composed of writhing messengers wearing the doll's clothing, can drive you to frenzy just by looking at you. The brain of Mensis hanging in the nightmare causes frenzy through its mere presence. Insight makes you sensitive to these assaults on consciousness, as if understanding cosmic truth also makes you vulnerable to cosmic horror. Insight and beasthood exist in opposition. Gain insight and your beasthood decreases. Spend insight and your beasthood returns. The game suggests these paths are incompatible, that you cannot simultaneously embrace bestial instinct and cosmic knowledge. You must choose one or the other, must decide whether to seek power through savage physicality or through transcendent understanding. But here's what makes you unique as a hunter. You can exist between these extremes. You're not forced to choose one path exclusively. You can maintain moderate insight, seeing some truths while avoiding the worst of frenzy vulnerability. You can use beast blood pellets strategically while still pursuing arcane hunter tools. You can wield both the saw cleaver and the auger of Ebritus, both physical violence and cosmic power. This liminal state, this existence between beast and god, is what makes you dangerous. The citizens of Yharnam who succumbed to beasthood became mindless, locked into pure instinct. The scholars who pursued cosmic truth often went mad, their consciousness shattered by revelations they couldn't process. But you, through some combination of Yharnam blood and the dream's protection, can walk both paths without being consumed by either. The transformation is always happening, though. Every insight point changes your perception. The world literally looks different at high insight. Enemies gain new attacks, the environment reveals previously invisible elements, ambient sounds shift to include whispers and crying babies. You're becoming something other than human, your consciousness expanding to encompass realities that normal minds cannot hold. Similarly, every beast you kill brings you closer to understanding their nature. You absorb their blood echoes, literally consuming part of their essence to grow stronger. You can transform weapons using their blood, infusing your arsenal with bestial power. The visceral attack, that satisfying plunge of your hand into an enemy's body to tear out their core, is fundamentally inhuman. Normal people don't fight this way. Beasts do. And gradually, through repetition and blood-soaked practice, these bestial techniques become natural to you. You exist in superposition, simultaneously moving toward beast and god, physical and cosmic, savage and transcendent. The game's mechanics encode this duality into every system. Your stats can be distributed to emphasize strength and skill, physical, bestial, or arcane, cosmic, otherworldly. Your weapon choices range from savage saws and hammers to mystical arcane implements. Your playstyle can embrace aggressive beastly tactics or cautious cosmic manipulation. The question isn't which path to choose. The question is how long you can maintain this impossible balance, walking the edge between transformations, retaining enough humanity to make meaningful choices while embracing enough otherworldly power to survive the hunt. You are neither beast nor god, but something emerging between them, shaped by blood and bound by dreams into a form that shouldn't exist, but does. The hunter's dream and your true nature. What are you, fundamentally? Strip away the weapons and armor, ignore the stats and builds, look past the origins and backstories. What manner of being hunts through Yharnam's streets, dies repeatedly only to wake in the dream, accumulates cosmic knowledge while battling bestial horrors? The answer is more complex than a hunter, because the hunter's dream reveals something profound about your essential nature. You are a ghost haunting your own life. The moment you signed that contract, The moment the blood transfusion bound you to the dream, your existence split. There's a physical body moving through Yharnam's streets, bleeding when struck, falling when killed. And there's a consciousness anchored to the hunter's dream, something that persists beyond death, that remembers each failed attempt, that cannot truly be destroyed as long as the dream endures. This is what the hunter's mark represents, that sigil you can invoke to abandon your current state and return to the dream. Item descriptions call it a dangling upside-down rune etched into one's mind. Symbol of a hunter. Not carved into your flesh, but into your consciousness itself, permanent and inescapable. When you use it, you lose all accumulated blood echoes, returning to your last visited lamp as if waking from a nightmare. Because that's exactly what you're doing, acknowledging that your death in Yharnam was all just a bad dream and trying again. The dream protects you from permanent death. Every gravestone in the garden represents another hunter who was bound to this place, who hunted and died and hunted again through countless cycles. Gehrman tends these graves, a reluctant caretaker maintaining memorials to souls who may not truly be gone. Some hunters escaped, severing their connection to the dream. Others might still be bound here in some form, their consciousness trapped even if their bodies have long since perished. You're not the first hunter to walk these streets, not even close. Hundreds have come before, maybe thousands. Each signed the contract, received blood ministration, hunted through Yharnam's nightmare. Some succeeded in whatever task the moon presence set for them. Others failed. All left gravestones behind, physical markers of their passage through the dream. What makes you different? Why does this cycle begin again with you? The answer might lie in timing. You arrived during a particularly significant night, when the blood moon hangs low and the barrier between realities grows thin. The mensis ritual has been performed. Murgo's cry echoes through the nightmare. The healing church's experiments have reached critical mass. This isn't just another hunt. This is the hunt that might finally end things, one way or another. Or perhaps you're not different at all. Perhaps you're simply the latest in an endless succession of hunters, each believing themselves special, each convinced their hunt matters more than those who came before. The cosmic horror of Bloodborne extends to questions of identity and significance. What if you're not the protagonist of this story, but just another functionary in a cycle that will continue long after you're gone? The dream itself is a prison disguised as a sanctuary. It offers safety, no enemies, unlimited access to the workshop and merchants, the doll's gentle encouragement. But you cannot truly rest here. The night never ends in the hunter's dream. That enormous moon hangs perpetually overhead, casting everything in pale light. The white flowers in the garden never wilt. Gehrman never leaves his wheelchair except in sleep or combat. Time doesn't flow here the way it does in the waking world. Gehrman understands this better than anyone. He's been trapped here the longest, bound to the dream as its first and primary servant. His dialogue reveals the depth of his torment. The night and the dream were long. He wants freedom but cannot claim it for himself. He can only offer it to others, killing hunters in the dream to sever their connection and let them return to the waking world. But he cannot perform this service for himself. He's too essential to the dream's function, too deeply bound up in whatever arrangement connects him to the moon presence. The doll is your only real comfort here, and even she raises questions. She's modeled after Lady Maria, Gehrman's student and someone who appears to have been significant to him. The real Maria met a tragic end, her corpse seated in the astral clock tower in the hunter's nightmare, guarding secrets she tried to hide even in death. The doll seems to have been created as a companion in the dream, though whether through Gehrman's will, the moon presence's power, or some combination remains unclear. But she seems genuinely kind. She speaks gently, offers to channel your blood echoes into strength, wishes you well when you leave for another hunt. When you return, she greets you warmly. She's programmed to be supportive, created to fulfill a role, but she performs that role with such apparent sincerity that the artificiality becomes almost irrelevant. Whether her kindness is real or not, it's the only kindness you'll find in this nightmare. Your true nature is revealed through your relationship with the dream. You are simultaneously its prisoner and its agent. Trapped here, yes, but also empowered by this imprisonment. The dream grants you immortality, strength, access to weapons and resources that would be impossible in the waking world. You couldn't hunt as effectively, couldn't grow as powerful, couldn't pursue the truth as relentlessly if you remained fully human. The blood echoes you collect are more than currency. They're fragments of souls, essences taken from the slain and absorbed into yourself. Each one represents a life ended, a being consumed, their power added to yours. This is vampiric in the truest sense, not just drinking blood but devouring the essential spark of other creatures to fuel your own existence. The doll channels these echoes into raw power, translating spiritual essence into measurable stat increases. Vitality, endurance, strength, skill, blood ting, arcane. Each represents a different aspect of your being enhanced through consumption of others. You grow stronger, not through training or practice, but through harvest, through killing and claiming what your victims leave behind. This is what the dream has made you. A predator optimized for endless hunting. A consciousness that persists beyond death to hunt again. A being that grows more powerful through consumption of souls. You're not quite human anymore. You're not quite beast either, nor fully transcendent like the great ones. You're something the dream created. A hybrid existence designed to serve specific purposes in an incomprehensible game played by entities beyond human understanding. And yet, there's still choice, still agency. The dream binds you, yes, but it doesn't completely control you. You decide which beast to hunt, which paths to explore, which secrets to uncover. You choose whether to show mercy or cruelty, whether to help NPCs or abandon them, whether to seek every truth or remain in comfortable ignorance. The dream reveals what you are. A hunter, immortal and terrible, bound by contract to hunt through nightmares. But your choices reveal who you are, and that remains entirely up to you. 3 paths, 3 destinies. Everything culminates here, at the base of a great tree in the hunter's dream. The workshop burns behind you, consumed by flames that mark the approaching end of the long night. Gehrman waits in his wheelchair, and for the first time since this hunt began, he offers you a choice. Tonight, Gehrman joins the hunt. These words mark a threshold. The hunt is ending one way or another. The task is nearly complete, though what exactly that task was remains ambiguous. You've slain Murgo's wet nurse, silenced the nightmare's cry, perhaps ended the mensis ritual that perpetuated Yharnam's curse. The pieces are in motion for something to change. Gehrman offers you release. You will die, forget the dream, and awake under the morning sun. A clean escape, a return to the waking world, freedom from the nightmare that has consumed you. All you must do is submit. Let him kill you in the dream to sever your connection permanently. Wake up in Yharnam as the sun rises, the long night finally over. This is the Yharnam sunrise ending. If you accept Gehrman's offer, he will stand from his wheelchair, a shock in itself, seeing the old man rise and ready his weapon. The burial blade, that beautiful and terrible scythe, emerges from its sheath. One swift motion. Your head separates from your shoulders. The screen goes white. You wake in Yharnam's streets. The sun is rising, painting the Gothic architecture in warm morning light. Church bells ring in the distance. The nightmare is over. You survived. You're free. The doll mourns at your grave in the hunter's dream, but you're no longer there to see it. You've returned to the waking world, released from the contract, released from the hunt. This ending represents escape, but also forgetfulness. The doll's farewell wishes you well in the waking world, implying everything that happened exists in contrast to where you now return. Whether the hunt was truly a dream that you'll gradually forget, or whether the memories will persist, remains ambiguous. Your memories of the hunt, of the cosmic horrors you witnessed, of the truths you uncovered, they may fade like morning mist, leaving you whole but diminished, free but ignorant. Or they may remain, a burden you carry into whatever life awaits. It's the happiest ending in a conventional sense. You survived. You're free. You can return to whatever life awaits you. But there's a melancholy to it too. All that struggle, all those deaths and resurrections, all the knowledge you gained, reduced to vague half-memories of a bad dream. You escaped, but at the cost of understanding what you escaped from. The second path requires refusal. When Gehrman offers release, you can say no. Refuse his offer, reject the easy escape, insist on remaining in the hunt. This defiance forces Gehrman to rise from his wheelchair, to take up his weapon, not to free you, but to force you into accepting freedom. Dear, oh dear, what was it? The hunt, the blood, or the horrible dream? Oh, it doesn't matter. It always comes down to the hunter's helper to clean up after these sorts of messes. He speaks with such sadness, such resignation. He's done this before, many times. Fought hunters who refused release, who couldn't accept that the hunt must end. And now he must do it again, must battle you in the garden of the hunter's dream while the moon hangs low overhead. The fight is brutal, beautiful, tragic. Gehrman moves with impossible grace for someone his age, the burial blade sweeping in devastating arcs, his hunter blunderbuss punishing aggressive approaches. He was the first hunter for a reason. His skills haven't diminished with his long imprisonment. If anything, he's honed them through endless cycles, perfecting his technique through repetition that spans beyond human lifetimes. When you finally defeat him, he falls. The night and the dream were long. His last words are a sigh of relief, grateful perhaps that this particular cycle is ending. And then the moon presence arrives. It descends from the sky, this spindly cosmic entity, all pale flesh and writhing appendages. The true power behind the hunter's dream, the great one connected to its creation. Based on an umbilical cord found in the abandoned workshop, we know that the third umbilical cord precipitated the encounter with the pale moon, which beckoned the hunters and conceived the hunter's dream. This suggests Gehrman's role in the dream's origin, though the exact circumstances remain unclear. The moon presence reaches for you, grabs you, and in that embrace binds you as Gehrman was bound. The cutscene shows you in Gehrman's wheelchair, the doll pushing you through the garden as morning light filters through the trees. You've taken his place. You're the new keeper of the dream, the new handler for hunters who will come after you. Gehrman is finally free, but you've inherited his prison. This is the honoring wishes ending. You fought for the right to remain in the dream, to continue the hunt, and in doing so became the very thing you fought against. You're now bound to service, forced to guide future hunters through the same nightmare you just survived. It's a cruel fate, a monkey's paw wish granted in the worst possible way. But there's a third option, a hidden ending that requires specific preparation. Throughout your journey, you can find 4/3 of umbilical cord, grotesque items that grant insight and are described as remnants connected to the Great Ones and their offspring. If you consume 3 of these before defeating Gehrman, if you flood your consciousness with enough cosmic knowledge, something different happens. You refuse Gehrman, you fight him, you win. The moon presence descends as before, reaching out to claim you as its new servant. But this time, a brilliant flash of light pushes it back, The umbilical cords have transformed you somehow, granted you enough cosmic essence that the moon presence can no longer simply dominate you. A new fight begins. The moon presence is easier to defeat than Gehrman, ironically. It's skeletal, feral, attacking with animalistic fury, but not matching the first hunter's skill. When it falls, when you land that final blow, a cutscene plays that has confused and fascinated players since the game's release. The doll kneels in the garden, picking up something from the ground. It's small, slug-like, covered in pale skin. She cradles it gently, addresses it as Good Hunter. The camera pulls back to reveal this tiny creature is you, transformed into an infant great one, the beginning of something new. This is childhood's beginning. By consuming the umbilical cords, by gaining enough cosmic knowledge, you transcended human limitations entirely. You didn't escape the dream or become its servant. You became something else, something that exists beyond those categories. An infant great one, the first of potentially many, the next step in evolution. The title references Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End, a science fiction novel about humanity transcending physical form to become beings of pure consciousness. Bloodborne's version is more Lovecraftian, more grotesque, but the concept is similar. You've ascended beyond humanity, become the very thing that scholars like Master Willem and Micolash sought to achieve. But what does this mean? The cutscene is ambiguous by design. Are you the new moon presence, taking its place in the cosmic hierarchy? Are you genuinely transcendent, evolved beyond the need for the hunt? Or are you trapped in a new form, an infant consciousness that will take eons to mature, if it survives at all? The game offers no clear answers. Great ones in Bloodborne pursue incomprehensible agendas, manipulate lesser beings for purposes humans cannot fathom. If the pattern holds, becoming one doesn't necessarily mean achieving wisdom or enlightenment. It might mean losing the last vestiges of humanity, becoming something that future hunters will fight against, perpetuating the cycle in a new form. But this remains speculation. The true nature of your transformation is left for players to interpret. The three endings represent three different answers to the question of who you are. In Yharnam Sunrise, you're someone who survived, who escaped with their life but lost their understanding, a human who endured the nightmare and returned to normalcy. In Honoring Wishes, you're a servant, a tool, consciousness bound to serve the moon presence's agenda for eternity. In Childhood's Beginning, you're transformed entirely, no longer human, but something new, something cosmic, something unknowable. None of these endings are unambiguously good or bad. Each represents a different form of transcendence, a different way of moving beyond the hunt, escape through forgetfulness, service through dedication, transformation through cosmic knowledge. You chose which path to walk through the decisions you made, whether to accept or refuse, whether to consume the umbilical cords or leave them be. Your identity, ultimately, is determined by this final choice. Who are you in Bloodborne? You are whoever chooses which ending to pursue. The power of choice. Here's what makes Bloodborne different from a more linear narrative. Your identity isn't predetermined. It's constructed through choices made across the entire journey. What weapons do you use? What stats do you level? Which NPCs do you help or harm? How much insight do you accumulate? Every decision shapes not just your capabilities, but your character. Consider two different hunters. The first embraces the beast path. They keep insight low, use beast blood pellets constantly, wield the beast claws with beast's embrace equipped. They dodge on all fours, tear into enemies with inhuman savagery, sacrifice defense for overwhelming offense. They help Alfred complete his bloody mission, embrace violence as the solution to every problem. When Gehrman offers release, they refuse, fighting him with bestial fury before being bound to the wheelchair, a savage creature, barely contained. The second hunter pursues cosmic truth. They maintain high insight, use arcane hunter tools, wield weapons imbued with elemental power. They seek every umbilical cord, speak with every NPC, uncover every secret. They spare those who can be spared, showing mercy when possible. When they finally confront the moon presence, they've accumulated enough forbidden knowledge to transcend, becoming an infant great one through understanding rather than violence. These are two completely different characters, two different interpretations of Who Are You in Bloodborne, both equally valid. The game's systems support either approach and countless variations between them. You can be an honorable knight wielding Ludwig's holy blade, or a shadowy assassin with the blade of mercy, or an arcane scholar calling down cosmic power, or a savage beast hunter with the most brutal weapons available. The flexibility extends to moral choices. You can send NPCs to Iosefka's clinic, knowing they'll be transformed into grotesque experiments. You can help the suspicious beggar, who turns out to be a cannibal. You can ally with the Vilebloods or the executioners, participate in ancient feuds you don't fully understand. Each choice doesn't just affect the world, but reflects something about the character you're creating. Even how you fight says something. Do you spam the overpowered saw cleaver and never experiment? That's a pragmatic hunter who found what works and sticks with it. Do you constantly swap weapons, trying everything the game offers? That's someone exploring possibilities, refusing to be locked into a single playstyle? Do you summon for every boss or insist on solo victories? Both approaches are valid, but they suggest different personalities. The game never judges these choices. It doesn't say one path is better than another. Beasthood and Insight both have advantages and disadvantages. Helping NPCs sometimes leads to tragedy. Refusing to help might lead to the same outcome. Bloodborne is fundamentally amoral in its design, presenting options and allowing players to construct their own moral framework. This is what makes replaying Bloodborne so compelling. Each playthrough can explore a different identity, a different answer to who are you? Your first character might be a confused newcomer, making mistakes, learning through trial and error. Your second might be a focused specialist, knowing exactly what build to create and pursuing it with precision. Your third might deliberately challenge yourself, using unconventional weapons or self-imposed limitations. The choice extends to how much truth you seek. You can complete Bloodborne knowing almost nothing about its deeper lore, never reading item descriptions, never piecing together the cosmic horror underlying everything. You can simply hunt beasts, fight bosses, reach an ending. That's a valid way to experience the game, as a visceral combat challenge set in a gothic horror world. Or you can dive deep, read every item description, talk to every NPC multiple times, tracking their quest lines, explore every corner, find every secret, piece together the connections between the Healing Church and Byrgenwerth, between Yharnam and the Pthumerians, between the Great Ones and humanity's doomed attempts to ascend. This transforms Bloodborne into a mystery to be solved, a puzzle where the pieces are scattered across levels and item text and environmental storytelling. Both approaches are equally valid because the game supports both. You can be an ignorant hunter who kills without understanding, or a knowledgeable one who grasps the cosmic significance of every action. You can be anywhere on the spectrum between these extremes. The identity you create is yours. This flexibility is FromSoftware's greatest achievement with Bloodborne. By refusing to explicitly define your character, by leaving so much ambiguous and player-determined, they created a game where each person's experience generates its own unique protagonist. 10 people playing Bloodborne create 10 different hunters, 10 different answers to the central question. Who are you in Bloodborne? You are whoever you choose to be through your actions, your build decisions, your moral choices, your engagement with the lore. You are defined not by predetermined narrative, but by emergent identity, by who you become through playing. The game provides the framework, the origins, the mechanics, the world, the choices. You provide the character by how you navigate that framework. And that's the beautiful horror of it. There is no single answer. There are as many answers as there are players, each one valid, each one true to someone's experience. You are the hunter you create through playing. That's who you are in Bloodborne. Conclusion. We started with a question: who are you in Bloodborne? We've explored origins and contracts, blood ministration and cosmic knowledge, the balance between beast and god, the prison of the hunter's dream, and the 3 possible destinies that await at journey's end. But the real answer has been present throughout. You are a work in progress, an identity under construction. You began as a desperate stranger seeking Paleblood, whatever that means. You became a hunter through contract and transfusion, your body transformed by Yharnam blood, your consciousness bound to an otherworldly dream. You've walked the line between bestial savagery and cosmic transcendence, accumulating both blood echoes and insight, growing more powerful and more inhuman with each hunt. Every choice you made shaped who you became. Every weapon you wielded, every stat you leveled, every NPC you helped or harmed, every secret you uncovered or ignored. These weren't just mechanical decisions. They were acts of self-definition, building the character one choice at a time. The genius of Bloodborne lies in how it makes this process feel meaningful. In most games, character creation is a front-loaded process. You make decisions at the beginning that determine everything that follows. But in Bloodborne, character creation is continuous. You're constantly defining and redefining yourself through gameplay, through choices both mechanical and narrative. Who are you? You are whoever emerges from the crucible of Yharnam's long night, someone who came seeking a cure and found transformation instead, someone who hunted beasts until the line between hunter and beast grew perilously thin, someone who uncovered cosmic truths that shattered comfortable illusions about reality, someone who chose how to end the hunt, whether through escape or service or transcendence. You are the sum of your choices, the product of blood and dreams, the hunter who survived when hundreds before you fell. You are terrible and magnificent, damned and possibly redeemed, caught between extinction and evolution. And when you reach that final ending, when you make that last choice between submission and refusal, between humanity and transcendence, you finally answer the question, not with words, but with action, not with exposition, but with decision. Who are you in Bloodborne? Look at which ending you chose. Look at how you fought. Look at what you became. That's who you are. That's who you've always been. From the moment you woke on that surgical table and felt the blood singing in your veins. A hunter, a dreamer, a being poised between transformations, choosing which one to embrace. The night is long, and the dream never truly ends. But at least now you know who walks through it. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Bloodborne's mysteries, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. There's so much more to explore in FromSoftware's masterpieces, from the deepest lore of the Chalice dungeons to the tragic stories of every NPC. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload, and let me know in the comments which aspect of Bloodborne's identity question resonates most with you. Are you the beast, the god, or something in between? Until next time, good hunters, may you find your worth in the waking world.